Have you ever seen a car that looks normal but packs a secret punch under the hood? These rare sleeper cars hide insane power behind everyday looks, silent but deadly on the streets. Let's have a look. Number 15, 1970, Buick GS 455, Stage 1. Let's begin with this 1970 Buick GS Stage 1, with only 2,465 hardtop models ever made. It went through a full frame-off restoration by Thornton Auto Works in Pennsylvania, bringing it back to its glory days. Powering this beauty is a matching numbers 455 cubic inch V8 engine, pushing out 360 horsepower and a massive 510 pound-feet of torque. It is paired with a matching numbers close ratio 4-speed manual transmission and a 3.64 positive rear end. The engine breathes through a dual exhaust system with low restriction pipes and reverse flow mufflers for that deep, powerful sound. Dressed in glacier white with a solid black interior, this GS Stage 1 came with no power steering and no power brakes, making it a true driver's machine. It rolls on 15 by 7-inch factory rally wheels wrapped in Goodyear Polyglass GT G60 tires. Inside, it keeps things classic with a Sonomatic AM/FM radio and an optional consolette floor shifter between the bucket seats. This car isn't just about looks and power, it has been recognized too. It earned Concours Gold at the Buick Nationals in 2010, proving its top-tier restoration and authenticity. It also comes with over 30 pieces of original documentation, including the build sheet, Protecto plate, original invoice, warranty book, and owner's manual. Buick made this model stand out with chrome rocker covers, a special air cleaner decal, an extra-duty cooling system, and a triple-row radiator. The hood scoops, though stylish, weren't the most effective, leading many owners to upgrade their air intakes. The large valves and hot hydraulic camshaft made the Stage 1 engine a beast, delivering incredible performance straight from the factory. When tested, a well-tuned Stage 1 ran the quarter mile in 13.38 seconds at 105.5 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest American cars of its time. With the manual transmission, fuel economy averaged 12 to 13.5 miles per gallon, while the automatic version got around 8.5 to 12 miles per gallon. The 1970 GS Stage 1 was more than just a muscle car. It was a powerhouse with luxury, built to rule the streets. Number 14, 1971, AMC Hornet SC/360. Back in 1971, American Motors Corporation, AMC, rolled out exactly 784 units of the Hornet SC360. It was a muscle car made for a changing world. Gas was getting expensive, insurance rates were rising, and strict new rules on emissions and safety were coming in. So AMC built a car that had muscle, but it also made sense. The Hornet SC360 came with a 360 cubic inch V8 engine borrowed from the Javelin AMX. The standard version had a 2-barrel carburetor with 245 brake horsepower. But if you wanted more power, AMC had the Go package. It cost just $199 and gave you a 4-barrel carburetor, Ram air hood scoop, and dual exhausts, pushing power up to 285 brake horsepower. For shifting gears, the base model had a 3-speed manual transmission, but buyers could upgrade to a 4-speed manual with a Hurst shifter for $204.90, or an automatic transmission for $237.85. It came with Polyglass D70 by 14 tires, and performance could be improved with a handling package and a twin grip differential with gear ratios of 3.54 to 1 or 3.90 to 1. Those who chose the 4-speed manual could even get a 3.91 to 1 ratio. On the drag strip, the Hornet SC360 was no joke. With the automatic transmission, it hit a quarter-mile time of 14.8 seconds at 94.63 miles per hour. With a few tuning tweaks, it could easily get into the 13-second range and cross 100 miles per hour. The handling was solid. The car felt tight on the road, with no body lean and good braking performance. The only minor complaint was slightly slow steering. For fuel economy, the Hornet SC360 delivered around 8 miles per gallon during aggressive driving, 13 miles per gallon in city traffic, and up to 17 miles per gallon on the highway. With a starting price of $2,663, it was a muscle car that packed power, speed, and style in a smaller, more affordable package. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Number 13, 1973 Mercury Montego GT351 Cobra Jet. Back in 1973, Mercury rolled out 4,464 Montego GTs. Among these, 1,120 had the 351 Cobra Jet V8 with a 4-barrel carburetor, and just 197 came with a rare 4-speed manual transmission. It was a big shift for Mercury, a brand known for high-performance cars like the Cougar Eliminator and Cyclone. By this time, muscle cars were fading, and Mercury was moving towards luxury. The Montego GT had a sleek, fastback design and comfortable suspension, making it a solid road performer. Engine choices started with a 302 cubic inch V8 with a 2-barrel carburetor, producing 137 horsepower and 230 pound-feet of torque. Next was the 351 cubic inch V8, also with a 2-barrel, pushing out 159 horsepower and 250 pound-feet of torque. For more power, buyers could opt for the 351 Cobra Jet V8, which had 246 horsepower and 312 pound-feet of torque. There was also a 400 cubic inch V8, making 168 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. The biggest option was the 429 cubic inch V8, producing 201 horsepower and 322 pound-feet of torque. Transmission choices included a 3-speed manual, a 4-speed manual, and 3 types of automatics, the C4, FMX, and C6. The 3-speed manual was the base option, but in California it was not allowed. The 4-speed manual was only available with the 351 Cobra Jet V8, making it a rare find today. By 1973, muscle cars were nearly gone. The Montego GT took over as Mercury's performance model after the Cyclone name was dropped. It had a new perimeter frame, a coil spring rear suspension, and a wider track, making it heavier but more stable. Though power ratings dropped due to new regulations, the Montego GT remained a stylish, underrated piece of muscle car history. Number 12, 1974 Dodge Dart Sport 360. Back in 1974, Dodge made something special, the Dart Sport 360. They built only 3,951 of them, making it a rare find today. This wasn't just any Dart. It came with the biggest engine Dodge offered for this model, a 360 cubic inch V8 packed with power. It had a 4-barrel carburetor, giving it a strong push on the road. The power went to the wheels through a 3-speed automatic transmission, both engine and transmission being original to the car. This Dart wasn't just quick, it was smooth, thanks to power steering and power brakes, with front disc brakes for strong stopping power. This particular Dart has been in one family since it was brand new, and has only 77,000 original miles. It had one repaint, staying true to its original frost green shade, which shines beautifully under the sun, bold black Dart 360 graphics, and a matching black vinyl top make it look even sharper. Step inside and you'll find a green vinyl interior featuring bucket seats and a fold-down center armrest, all surrounded by classic wood grain trim. The car still holds its original AM/FM push-button radio and factory gauges, keeping that nostalgic feel intact. It comes loaded with features. There's factory air conditioning for comfort, an aluminum radiator for cooling, and a dual exhaust system for that deep, muscle car growl. The car rides on 14-inch Dodge rally wheels, wrapped in fresh Cooper Cobra tires for a perfect stance. The fuel system has been refreshed with a new gas tank and fuel lines, and the engine got a new oil pump. A Flowmaster dual exhaust lets that V8 breathe easily, while the vintage air conditioning keeps things cool inside. This Dart isn't just a showpiece, it's a true driver's car. Whether cruising the streets or turning heads at a show, it's a piece of Mopar history that still knows how to roar. Number 11, 1975 Chevrolet Nova SS 350. In 1975, Chevrolet made 272,982 Nova cars. Out of these, only 9,067 were super sport models, making the Nova SS a rare sight today. The SS package came with several engine choices, and one of the best was the 350 cubic inch V8. Exact production numbers for this engine in the SS model are not available, but it was one of the strongest options in the lineup. This was the year when Chevrolet gave the Nova a new look, It lost some of its older curves but kept its semi-fastback shape. It was available as a two-door coupe, a two-door hatchback, and a four-door sedan. The front suspension was improved with parts borrowed from the second-generation Camaro, making the ride smoother and handling better. The SS came with a bold, sporty design and a strong presence on the road. The 350 V8 was a solid performer, offering 155 horsepower. It came with different transmission options, including a 3-speed automatic, a 3-speed manual, and a 4-speed manual for V8 models. The Nova SS had power front disc brakes and steel-belted radial tires, making it a safer and more comfortable ride. The wheelbase remained at 111 inches, but the front tread was widened by 1.5 inches, giving the car better stability. Inside, the Nova SS had a sporty but comfortable feel. The cabin featured cut-pile carpeting, redesigned armrests with pull bars, and a new speedometer with larger, easier-to-read graphics. The front seats were supportive, and the hatchback model even offered optional swing-out quarter windows. Chevrolet made sure the SS stood out with its aggressive styling, including bold striping and super sport badging. The 1975 Nova SS was one of the last true muscle cars before big changes hit the industry. With its classic looks, solid power, and strong reputation, it remains a favorite among collectors and enthusiasts today. Number 10, 1976, Chrysler Cordoba 400. In 1976, Chrysler produced 167,618 Cordoba cars. This was Chrysler's best-selling model that year, outselling all its other cars. It was a personal luxury coupe designed for comfort and style, with a smooth ride and bold looks. The car was large but still elegant, measuring 215 points 3 inches long with a 115-inch wheelbase. It had a wide stance with a track of 62 inches at the front and back and an overall width of 77.1 inches. Despite its big size, this car was built for drivers who wanted luxury and performance, not just extra seating. Powering this beauty was a 400 cubic inch V8 engine, producing 175 horsepower, with an 8.2-to-1 compression ratio and a 2-barrel Holley carburetor. Other engine options included a 360 cubic inch V8 with 170 horsepower or 180 horsepower, and a high-performance 400 V8 with 240 horsepower. The most advanced option was Chrysler's lean burn 400 V8, delivering 210 horsepower and 305 pound-feet of torque. A Torque-A-Flight 3-speed automatic transmission sent power to the rear wheels, with a standard final drive ratio of 2.71 to 1. The Cordoba came with front disc brakes measuring 11.6 inches, paired with 11 by 2.4-inch rear drums. It rode on radial tires for better grip, and the suspension combined torsion bars, tubular shocks, and A-arms up front, with semi-elliptical leaf springs in the back. Weighing nearly 4,000 pounds, this car had a smooth yet solid feel on the road. Inside, the Cordoba was all about comfort. It came with bucket seats in fine Corinthian leather, a center console with a floor shifter, and plush carpeting. The dash featured wood grain trim, and the AM/FM stereo with an 8-track player worked perfectly. The headliner, visors, and door panels were in great shape, and the car had never been smoked in. With its bold front grille, round headlights, and classic styling, the 1976 Chrysler Cordoba was the perfect mix of power and luxury, making it a true standout of its time. Number 9, 1970, Ford Maverick Grabber 302. The 1970 Ford Maverick Grabber 302 was Ford's bold attempt at making an affordable, stylish, and somewhat sporty compact car. It arrived in April 1969 and sold like crazy, with nearly 579,000 units produced in its first year alone. That was almost as many as the legendary Mustang sold in its debut year. Over its entire North American run, Ford built 2,100,000 Mavericks. This car was designed to be simple, cheap, and easy to maintain. It had a wheelbase of 103 inches and came with a long hood, a sloping roof, and short trunk styling that made it look sleek. It had pop-out rear side windows, which was a neat touch. Early versions didn't even have a glove compartment, but Ford fixed that by 1973. The Maverick was available in bright, fun colors, with quirky names like Hulla Blue, Freudian Gilt, and Anti-Establishment. The Grabber 302 was the sportier version introduced in the mid-1970s. It came with bold graphics, a rear spoiler, and a dual-dome hood that made it look aggressive. power came from a 302 cubic inch V8 engine producing 210 horsepower. It was paired with either a 3-speed manual transmission or a 3-speed automatic. This gave it decent speed, hitting 0 to 60 miles per hour in 14.5 seconds, which was quick for the time. But not everything was great. The steering was slow, taking 5.2 turns from one end to the other, making sharp turns feel sluggish. The all-drum brakes weren't the best, and the suspension was soft, meaning the car would bottom out with too much weight. Inside, the bench seat was uncomfortable, dropping drivers low into a dark cabin. Visibility was poor, and fuel economy wasn't impressive, averaging 20.5 miles per gallon. Despite its flaws, the Maverick Grabber 302 was a hit with buyers looking for an affordable American car with some muscle. It may not have matched imports in handling or efficiency, but it had style, power, and a price tag of just $1,995. Number 8, 1971 Chevrolet Biscayne 427. In 1971, Chevrolet built 37,600 Biscayne cars. Out of these, 34,700 came with powerful V8 engines, while 2,900 had 6-cylinder engines. The Biscayne was a simple, no-nonsense full-size car, made mostly for fleets, but regular buyers could get one too. It didn't have fancy chrome or luxury features, but it had size, power, and reliability. The real beast of the lineup was the Biscayne 427, packing a massive 7-liter V8 engine. This powerhouse was equipped with a 4-speed manual transmission with a Hurst shifter. It was the kind of car that could tear down the road, with some models used for serious drag racing. Dealers like Baldwin Chevrolet even offered street-ready race versions with heavy-duty suspensions. Some enthusiasts called it Biskick because of how fast it could move. Chevrolet made things easier by adding the turbo-hydromatic automatic transmission as standard on all V8 models midway through the year. The Biscayne 427 came with dual exhausts, front disc brakes, and a posi-traction rear differential, making it one of the quickest full-size sedans of its time. But despite all that power, the Biscayne was still basic. Inside, you have vinyl bench seats, rubber floor mats, and a simple dashboard with no extra frills. By 1972, the Biscayne disappeared from Chevrolet's lineup in the United States, staying only for fleet buyers. But in Canada, the name lived on until 1975, with a 348 cubic inch V8 engine, becoming standard in 1974. The station wagon version, once called the Brookwood, made a return in 1973, featuring a clamshell tailgate that disappeared into the floor and roof, making loading much easier. The Biscayne ended for 3 big reasons. First, rising fuel prices made big cars less attractive. Second, it overlapped with the Bel Air and Pontiac Catalina. Third, Chevrolet needed to focus on smaller, fuel-efficient cars like the Vega and Chevette. Even though it was phased out, the Biscayne 427 remains a legend, a powerful, no-frills sedan that could outrun many muscle cars of its time. Number 7, 1972 Plymouth Satellite Sebring Plus 400.
See that quite often. Yeah.
The 1972 Plymouth Satellite Sebring Plus 400 was one of the last true muscle cars before the horsepower wars started cooling down. Plymouth built around 21,000 of these cars that year, making them a rare sight today. It shared its bones with the famous Roadrunner, but had a touch more comfort and style. With bold looks and a powerful heart, it was a machine built for both speed and style. This car had a 400 cubic inch V8 engine with a 4-barrel carburetor, putting out 255 horsepower. It came with either a 3-speed automatic or a 4-speed manual transmission. The Satellite Sebring Plus also had a heavy-duty suspension, strong leaf springs, and high-control shock absorbers, making it handle like a true muscle car. A 3.23 rear axle ratio helped it launch hard off the line. Even though muscle cars were starting to slow down in this era, this one could still tear down the road, running the quarter mile in the 13-second range. The exterior had that classic long hood and short rear deck, giving it an aggressive stance. The grille was wide and bold, with the Plymouth emblem tucked neatly into the nose. The body featured chrome accents, a raised trim over the wheel wells, and a unique rocker panel stripe that gave it a sporty touch. Buyers could pick from a variety of high-impact colors, including bright shades like lemon twist yellow. Inside, the Satellite Sebring Plus aimed for a balance between muscle and comfort. It came with bucket seats wrapped in vinyl, though a cloth and vinyl mix was also available. The dashboard featured rally gauges, giving drivers a clear view of speed, fuel, and engine performance. A tachometer, hood pins, and a center console were optional but common in performance-focused models. Despite being packed with performance features, the Sebring Plus was actually a bit more expensive than a base Roadrunner, by about $32. However, many buyers likely picked this car to avoid high insurance rates while still getting all the muscle they wanted. Today, it stands as a reminder of a time when American cars were built for power, speed, and style. Number 6, 1974 Chevrolet Laguna S3454. Chevrolet built 15,792 Laguna-type S3 cars in 1974, making it the sportiest model in the Chevelle lineup that year. This car took over from the discontinued SS and came with a bold look, strong performance, and plenty of features that made it stand out. It was offered only as a colonnade coupe, meaning it had that stylish hardtop design without a full-frame window around the doors. Chevrolet gave it a urethane front end, a fresh grille, and new parking lights. The back featured larger taillights and a 5 mph chrome rear bumper, replacing the previous model's 2.5 mph version. It came with a vinyl roof, body side striping, and Laguna S3 badging. The ride was sportier with firmer shocks, a front stabilizer bar, and 15-inch radial tires on rally wheels. Inside, the Laguna S3 was all about style and comfort. It had swivel bucket seats, making it easier to slide in and out. The driver got a 4-spoke sport steering wheel and a dashboard with 6 gauges, including a tachometer. The interior had wood grain vinyl accents, and the seats were reupholstered in white pleated vinyl with red piping. Air conditioning was available but needed some work in later models. A factory 8-track player came with the car, and a reconditioned AM radio was included in some models. Under the hood sat the beast, the 454 cubic inch LS4 V8, pushing 235 horsepower. It was the last full year for this big block engine in the Chevelle lineup. The transmission was a 3-speed turbo hydromatic automatic, paired with a factory 3.42 to 1 rear differential. The Laguna had power steering, power disc and drum brakes, and a suspension package with front and rear sway bars. The Laguna S3 had the heart of a muscle car and the comfort of a luxury coupe. It was pricier than the base Chevelle, but looked sportier and packed a punch with its powerful V8. Number 5, 1975 Plymouth Roadrunner 400. Plymouth built 7,183 Roadrunners in 1975, making it one of the last true muscle cars before stricter rules took over. It was part of the Fury lineup and came with bold styling, a strong engine, and a price tag of close to $4,000. Buyers got a blackout grille, Roadrunner graphics on the trunk, and sporty striping that made it stand out. The Roadrunner had a B-body platform, a heavy-duty suspension with front and rear sway bars, and rally wheels available in 15-inch sizes. Beyond this, the standard engine was a 318 cubic inch V8 with 145 horsepower. But the real star was the 400 cubic inch V8 with 220 horsepower. This upgrade gave the car much more power and came with a 3.21 axle ratio for better acceleration. Most cars had a 3-speed torque flight automatic transmission, but a 3-speed manual was also an option. The 440 cubic inch V8 with 255 horsepower was available in police models, and some Roadrunners may have been secretly equipped with it. Inside, the Roadrunner kept things simple but comfortable. Buyers could add a luxurious interior, with options like an electric sunroof and a cassette player with a microphone for recording. Seating was designed for comfort, and the materials were tough enough to last. The car came in bold colors like rally red and spinnaker white, bringing back the flashy style of earlier muscle cars. Despite new emission rules reducing power, the Roadrunner still packed a punch. The 400 cubic inch V8 could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 9 seconds, which was still fast for its time. Handling was solid, and the engine's deep rumble made it feel like a true muscle car. Today, a well-kept 1975 Roadrunner is a rare find, with prices reaching $50,000 for top-condition models. Number 4, 1970 Mercury Cyclone Spoiler. Mercury built 1,631 units of the 1970 Cyclone Spoiler, making it one of the rarest muscle cars of its time. It had everything: big power, bold styling, and great speed, but for some reason, it never became as famous as its Ford cousins. This car was Mercury's way of proving that it could make a true muscle machine, and they did not hold back. The Cyclone spoiler looked a lot like the Ford Torino Cobra, but it had a longer, sleeker body with a distinctive Coke bottle shape. It came ready for performance straight from the factory with a 429 cubic inch V8 that produced 370 horsepower. For even more power, buyers could choose the Super Cobra Jet package, which increased output to 375 horsepower and added tougher engine parts, a more aggressive camshaft, and solid lifters. This package also came with a 4-speed manual transmission, an engine oil cooler, and high-performance rear gears, either a 3.91 ratio or a 4.30 ratio, with a Detroit locker differential for extra traction. Mercury designed the spoiler for both power and stability. It had a functional hood scoop to help the engine breathe, plus a chin spoiler and rear airfoil to improve aerodynamics at high speeds. While some muscle cars relied on flashy decals, the Cyclone spoiler kept things clean with simple tape stripes and a choice of bold colors like competition blue, competition yellow, competition green, competition orange, competition gold, and pastel blue. There was even a custom color program for those who wanted something unique. Inside, the car was built for the driver. Unlike the Ford Torino's basic dashboard, the Cyclone spoiler had a proper tachometer, oil pressure gauge, coolant temperature gauge, and ammeter. The car was big, measuring nearly 210 inches long, with a 117-inch wheelbase and weighing around 3,900 pounds. However, the competition handling package, heavy-duty suspension, optional power steering, and front disc brakes handled it surprisingly well. Even though it never got the recognition it deserved, the Cyclone spoiler was a true muscle car with the power, style, and performance to match the best of its era. Number 3, 1975 Buick Century GS 455. Buick built 1,288 units of the 1975 Century Grand Sport, a car that had all the right features to be a legend, but somehow stayed in the shadows. It had power, style, and even a role as an Indianapolis 500-pace car, yet it never became as famous as some other muscle cars of its time. By 1975, the Century was Buick's mid-size car, available as a coupe, sedan, or station wagon. The base engine was a 231 cubic inch V6, producing 110 horsepower. But the real star was the 350 cubic inch V8 with a 4-barrel carburetor, delivering 145 horsepower. While those numbers might not sound impressive, Buick focused on making the car smooth and solid on the road. It had a comfortable ride, and when tuned properly, it could easily surprise other cars. The Grand Sport GS package used to be a true muscle car trim, but by this time, it had turned into more of an appearance and suspension package. The biggest engine, the legendary 455 cubic inch V8, was no longer an option. Buyers had to choose between the V6 or the 350 cubic inch V8, but with the right setup, the Century Grand Sport could still hold its own. One of the most exciting versions was the 1975 Indianapolis 500 pace car. The actual pace car used at the race had a 455 cubic inch V8, dual exhaust, heavy-duty suspension, and aggressive looks. The replicas sold to the public were slightly different, coming with a 350 cubic inch V8 and a softer suspension setup, but they still look just as cool with their white paint, red and blue decals, and T-top roof panels. The 1975 Buick Century Grand Sport was a true sleeper. It had muscle car DNA hidden inside a mid-size body, offering speed, comfort, and style. It never got the attention it deserved, but those who knew its potential understood what a special car it really was. Number 2, 1979, Chrysler 300. Chrysler manufactured only 2,900 of these models, making the car quite rare. But instead of creating a brand new muscle car, Chrysler turned the Cordoba Coupe into a special edition, giving it power, style, and history. At first glance, the Chrysler 300 looked a lot like a regular Cordoba, but it had plenty of unique details. It was only available in white with red and blue pinstripes, featuring a black egg crate grille with a bold 300 badge. The quarter windows had gold 300 emblems, and the fender louvers added an aggressive touch. Inside, the car had red leather bucket seats, a leather-wrapped steering wheel, turned aluminum dash trim, and a full set of sport gauges with a tachometer. It had the right mix of luxury and muscle, but because it looked similar to the Cordoba, many people never realized what it really was. Powering the 300 was a 360 cubic inch V8 with a 4-barrel carburetor, producing 195 horsepower. That might not sound impressive today, but back in 1979, it was one of the most powerful engines available. For comparison, the base Corvette that year only had 185 horsepower. The 300 came with a Torquey Flight 3-speed automatic transmission, moving its nearly 2-ton body with surprising speed. Unfortunately, the timing was all wrong. By 1979, muscle cars were fading away, big engines were disappearing, and people were more focused on gas prices than performance. While the Dodge Lil Red Express truck, which had the same engine, got all the attention, the 300 were mostly ignored. Chrysler was struggling, and this special edition went unnoticed. Only 5,500 were built, and today, most are either lost or sitting in junkyards. It had the power, style, and history, but because it was based on a luxury car, it never got the respect it deserved. The 1979 Chrysler 300 remains one of the most overlooked sleeper cars of its time. Number 1. 1970 AMC Ambassador SST 390. Between 1968 and 1970, AMC sold about 127,066 Ambassador SSTs, with around 46,048 of them equipped with the 390 cubic inch V8. This engine was only produced for 3 years, making any car with it a rare find. The AMC Ambassador was always the top model in AMC's lineup. By 1970, AMC offered more models than ever before, including the Hornet, Rebel, AMX, Gremlin, Javelin, and, of course, the Ambassador. But despite all these options, the company still struggled, losing $58 million that year on total sales of just over $1 billion. The Ambassador SST, the highest trim level, came standard with a 304 cubic inch V8 and an automatic transmission. Buyers looking for more power could upgrade to a 360 cubic inch, or the more powerful 390 cubic inch V8. AMC also made air conditioning standard starting in 1968, making the Ambassador the first American car with this feature. It had a 122-inch wheelbase, but most of that extra length was in the front, while the cabin size was the same as the smaller Rebel. AMC has always found creative ways to save money, and one example is its quadlingual brochures, printed in English, Spanish, German, and French. None of the big three automakers would have considered that in the 70s, but AMC did. The company also pushed the Ambassador to police departments, hoping to boost sales. The Missouri State Highway Patrol even used them from 1971 to 1973. Despite these efforts, sales dropped. In 1969, AMC sold over 76,000 Ambassadors. By 1971, that number had fallen to less than half, and by 1974, only 25,000 were built. The two-door SST, like the one here, had a production run of just 8,255. By the mid-1970s, AMC realized large cars weren't the answer. The company shifted focus to smaller vehicles and Jeep, a decision that would keep them alive for years to come. Which one of the above rarest cars you found most amazing? Let us know in the comments.